Alrighty, guys. We are at that time of the year. 2020 is finally over. We could all use a Sprite right now, Gary. I'm just gonna say that right now, because Gary, I think you and I both agree that 2020, to say the least, was a shit year.
Shit's an understatement.
Yeah, although the saving grace, if you ask me, for 2020 were video games.
Technically, I wouldn't say it's a saving grace. It was the only thing about this whole entire year that was actually good. Because a lot of very interesting stuff came out within this whole entire year that was just absolutely just
hmm
mind-blowing, decent, okay, disappointing, but at the same time, very nice.
As you guys could tell by the title of the video, Mr. Garrison and I, my little boo boo over here, we are here to discuss our favorite games of 2020. Now, Gary, you brought up an idea to me that I haven't thought of, so explain to the kind folks what we're going to be exactly doing on this video.
Okay, so folks, instead of doing the annual top 10, top 5, here's what transpired on my part. I would have originally had a top 5, but the problem is, folks, I don't have the finances to afford a lot of these games that come out. I was able to at least afford with what I was able to purchase out the year. And plus, there were certain games that still had its own little patches and glitches and such that needed to
Yeah.
be fixed. So I decided, you know what, I'm not going to bother playing them until at least the fixings and updates are up to date and all ready to go. But in terms of certain games that I missed out, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Half-Life Alyx, the Marvel Spider-Man, Miles Morales.
Hmm.
Well, even though I wasn't interested, but just to give out there for everybody else, the Final Fantasy VII remake, the Watch Dogs Legions, Yakuza Like a Dragon, Empire of Sin, and many more. There's a lot of games, even Cyberpunk 2077, which I want to talk about in a little bit.
Sure.
But there was a lot of games I missed out, but I do happen to have a bundle of games that I managed to play. So I figured, you know what? Turn this more into a bit of a discussion type of play. Talk about games that we have managed to play throughout the year. Give a little talk about it, how we felt about it. And from there, we do an overall top 3 best overall of what we think is our best games of the whole entire year.
I was about to say, who wants to go first with discussing like their games that they were able to play, even if they weren't able to beat them? I mean, we got, let's say, like a good over 80% chunk of them completed before this whole thing started. So would you like to go first? Or would you like I to go first?
Well, you played more shit than me, so
Okay, so as far as the games that I was not able to complete before this video, one of them would be Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which is from what I've played, I think I played about an hour of the game. I think it's great from what I've played, my first impressions. The soundtrack is beautiful. The art design is absolutely beautiful. What the fuck? And one of my panels just fell down. Also, the Demon Souls remake, I am playing the hell out of it. I actually do intend to beat it, even though it is kicking my ass. It is a terrific remake of what was already a really hard game. And when I just started playing recently is actually Streets of Rage 4. This is a continuation of the Streets of Rage franchise. It's a lot of fun. And otherwise, that's what I have for the honorable mentions on my end. So, Gary, you go ahead and talk about the games that didn't quite make your top 3, but you really like them nonetheless.
I managed to play Samurai Jack Battle Through Time.
Oh, I forgot about that game even came out.
Okay, so here's what I can say about it. This game itself was very interesting. I got a whole video about it, but the game itself is very interesting. It's just like watching a whole episode of Samurai Jack.
Hmm.
It's just a recap of what the show is about. You're battling through time. You're fighting against what the fuck was his name?
Oh, Aku?
Aku, or whatever his name
I'm
is.
pretty sure his name was Aku.
But I was able to play that. It was just a whole synopsis and a recap of what Samurai Jack was all about and a reminder of what the show is. The game itself has very basic gameplay. It's very fun. And folks say it has a big reminder of, what was it, Devil May Cry or something?
Yeah, that's what a couple of people have said, that the combat was a lot like Devil May Cry's combat.
For me, I got something a little different. I forgot exactly what it was I thought differently, but I thought the game itself was very interesting story, but I didn't think it was like overall phenomenal, but it was just a very decent game to play. So next up I played, I think you played this one as well, the definitive edition of Mafia.
Yes, that would actually be my number 10, Mafia Definitive Edition. as a person now, I have played the original Mafia. I never beat the game, but this was a remake that I rather enjoyed quite a bit, actually.
Of course, you haven't fucking beaten it like a bunch of other games you haven't even beaten yet, because you're lazy.
It came out on the
You're
PS2, Gary. This was years.
lazy.
This was years
I know
ago.
it was years ago. You didn't finish PS1. You didn't finish your PS2. You didn't finish PS3. You didn't finish
Well, it didn't come out on the
PS4.
PS3.
Now you're not going to finish PS5. And I will be damned if you don't finish something on PS6.
I actually finished Definitive Edition, though.
Shut the fuck up. Be quiet. Mafia Definitive something, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Well, go on.
As a remake of a game that's very beloved, it was essentially, I wouldn't say it's a cult classic, but it wasn't as known as Grand Theft Auto was. From what I've seen, they expand upon certain elements, and you can also play this in 2 different modes, either a storyline mode where you do mission through mission through mission, or you could do the free roam mode where you could essentially play GTA, but also you could do the missions. And I thought the voice acting for the most part was really well done. I thought who played the main God, I can't remember the main person for some reason. I thought the one who played Tommy, I thought he was by far the best part about the game. Paulie, he sounded too nasally for my taste, if you ask me. And my biggest issue with the game is actually the combat. If it wasn't for the combat feeling so dated, I would have enjoyed the game a lot more. And believe it or not, the racing, to which I know this gentleman right here does not want to talk about the racing
Oh my
mechanic.
god, I hated the racing mechanics so much.
The racing didn't bother me, actually. I got done with that race on my first try, believe it or not. First try.
The gameplay itself has pros and cons, but the running is pretty solid. The audio of the weapons was a big improvement,
Yes.
minus the Tommy gun, but the pistol and shotgun that you do pick up, I thought the audio for that was really nice. Also, you do get a much more better accuracy when you're trying to get headshots, which is the easiest way to take them out. Now, the biggest thing I did not like about this game was the driving mechanics. I thought the mechanics were extremely stiff and very hard to deal with. Some of the voice acting was a bit nasally and a bit congested.
Paulie especially.
Yeah, and it was hard to really take serious. I forgot who it was. The gentleman who played as Tommy in this one, Tommy Angelo.
Yes, Tommy Angelo.
Fucking badass. You remember from the first PS2 game of what transpired at the ending? The way that they were able to remaster this and showcased where it led up, I thought was just wow. That ending was a really nice remaster of giving you folks that reminder of another Mafia game, which I will not say because I want you folks to check that out.
Going on to one of my other games, this would be my number 9. A game I actually enjoyed a lot, Star Wars Squadrons. As a person who, unfortunately, you were able to play the game because you weren't able to, unfortunately, afford a lot of the game.
I wasn't interested in playing the Star Wars one.
This was, as a person who loves Rogue Squadron and Rogue Leader back on the N64 and the Nintendo GameCube days, this game brought me back to those days. The gameplay is some of the best Star Wars cockpit fighting gameplay I've seen. Of doing that, of course, I knew you were gonna laugh. I knew you were gonna say that. Being in an X-wing, fighting a TIE fighter, being in a Y-wing, and fighting one of the interceptors, and just being in a squad that was fun to be around. The immersion is incredible. The sound design and Star Wars Squadron is absolutely amazing. The game does have a VR mode, and I wish it had a VR headset because I feel like that playing this game in VR would actually enhance the experience so much more. The music is also great. I do wish the story was a tad bit better, and I wish the game was a lot longer. I think my campaign lasted maybe just about 8 hours long. Although, that being said, the game is just so much damn fun, and I do love how they brought so much into the mechanics of actually flying one of the, one of these fighters, whether it's the X-Wing, A-Wing, Y-Wing. I think you can actually fly the Millennium Falcon in the multiplayer, if I remember correctly. I thought they put a lot into this game, and it shows, and it's only a $40 game, so it's more than worth the $40 price tag, if you ask me. What the hell was that?
Don't worry about it.
I saw a blue light and heard a vibration.
A man is allowed to have a vibrator,
Good point.
You just put it, you know where to put it. It makes it feel nice. I want to talk a little bit about Valorant.
Oh, Valorant. You've been saying a lot about this game, but I never got the
Okay,
chance to check it out.
folks, I actually was recommended this from a lady friend.
Oh.
It's one of those multiplayer type first person shooter things, which is good. But here's the thing though. It's one of those games that falls into the formula of like Overwatch, Apex. Now, I'm one of those people who thinks Overwatch is extremely overrated.
And I couldn't agree more with that statement. I find it highly overrated.
I remember playing the game. I was not a fan of the game mechanics.
Same.
I do like the visual appeal, and I do like the selection of characters. But at the same time, though, I'm not really a fan of the gameplay elements of what is provided. This game really takes me a lot to playing Paladins, but with a whole different element. The gameplay itself is very easy to learn. The controls are very simplistic.
Mhm.
The gun audio is very nice. It's got a really good selection of characters, and honestly, this Valorant game has, in terms of its gun audio, it's probably the best I've heard. The whole entire game format, the main menu is a lot more organized. The different modes that you are given is a lot more simplistic to learn. The free-for-alls are a lot more easier, and it's a lot more challenging. And also, you get a lot more interesting skills that you can do within this particular game and what you're able to have. The characters and abilities that they are given is very nice as well. So I do recommend, for the folks out there who enjoy these types of games, I definitely recommend you play Valorant because I think you will really, really enjoy this one a lot. Now, for me, though, it's a game I'll only play every once in a blue moon
I
because
was gonna say maybe only once in a while, probably.
because the thing is, again, these types of games aren't really my specialty format, but after playing Valorant, this is definitely one for those folks out there who enjoy playing this. So I really recommend Valorant. It's pretty fun.
Going on to what would be my number 8 spot, that would be Final Fantasy VII Remake. I like the original release. However, I do find the original game to be overrated. I think Final Fantasy X is the far better title, the far superior title. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But I was looking forward to this game because, I just wanted to say, you know what? Maybe this remake could be better than what I found to be an overrated game. And I actually do find it to be slightly better in some aspects. I think the combat of the game is incredible of how they incorporate the JRPG elements along with the action RPG that you find in a game like, let's say, Kingdom Hearts. The art direction, I think that 95% of the time it looks amazing, but then there are some times where it just looks like shit. I also say the storyline, I think for the most part, was done very, very well. The ending, I have some not mixed options, but mixed thoughts on, especially when it comes to a certain boss battle that comes about, in which, even though I thought the boss battle was so much fun, the music was amazing, I do think they could have saved this particular boss. I know people have probably played it right now, but I don't want to spoil it for anyone who hasn't played it yet. But I feel like they could have saved this boss because this is going to be a series of games. I don't know how many games are going to be in the series, but I think they could have saved this for maybe the second or third game, maybe.
Did you give it 11 out of 10 and love everything about it?
Even with my issues, nope.
Other games I played, speaking of remakes, I might as well talk about this one.
Mhm.
Resident Evil 3. Around 2019, my best game of that year was Resident Evil 2.
I
That
agree.
was my best game. I thought it was a really, really good remake. Other than one little nitpick I had with it, but for Resident Evil 3, here's what I can say about it. It looked nice. It was great seeing Jill Valentine. But here's my problem I have with the game, though. So it's fine if it's short, but you got to make it worth your while, though.
You gotta make it, the replay value has to be even significantly bigger if it's gonna be shorter.
For this instinct, though, I just thought this game was way too easy. The puzzles were very simplistic.
There was really no puzzles in the game.
Well, whatever. Well, the puzzles or whatever that you do come across in this, it just felt way too easy. I thought the game was a little bit more generous instead of giving you that balanced challenge that Resident Evil 2 did. And the story itself, it just felt bland.
A friend of our show that we do Bofas, which guys check out Bofas on the Sofas. A person described this game as essentially a DLC for Resident Evil 2, and I have to agree with that. It felt like DLC. It felt like really full price DLC for Resident Evil 2.
Yeah, and this game, it's kind of like my biggest disappointment because I was expecting so much more for a remake. But after hearing things prior that Resident Evil 3 wasn't really much of a big game, and after playing it, I'm not saying it's shitty or anything.
Yeah.
But it wasn't up to the par where I was like, you know what, it's passable.
Right.
So this is honestly like my biggest disappointment.
Okay.
And I was just I mean, the gameplay mechanics were good. It's just that the characters, other than Jill Valentine, Carlos, I was not invested with his character at all.
I'm gonna give a mention to the Dark Pictures Little Hope.
I might as well join you on that because I was gonna get to that after that.
Both of us, we enjoyed Man Medan. We didn't love the game, but we enjoyed playing it. Little
Uh-huh.
Hope, though, my God, what a significant
That
improvement.
was a massive improvement over the
Oh my,
first.
yes. Little Hope and how it's able to expand the arcs and how it uses the Salem witch trials in order to how it explains the themes of, without giving anything away, of grief and trauma with certain characters. Visually, the game looked even better as well.
You forgot one thing. You forgot to mention one thing.
What's that?
The butterfly effect.
I even like the soundtrack to Little Hope even more than Man of Medan.
Yeah, the soundtrack for this one was pretty good. I like the soundtrack.
The jump scares in this game I thought were a bit obnoxious from time to time, and there were a lot of the times where we saw them coming easily, but we still did have a great time playing Little Hope, and it's a game that I do want to play again sometime very soon.
The jump scares alone, at first they'll really scare the shit out of you
they
in
will.
certain spots. But after a while, though, they kind of fall flat a little bit because you're expecting it from the way that it is setting up. So the jump scares fall a little flat. But also another thing that was really interesting is the storytelling. Some of those deceased mummified figures of themselves, like the fucking noose one.
Yes.
That one was terrifying.
That was scary as hell, yeah.
I just love the fact that this game was using the butterfly effect to its full standards while giving you giving that story of the Salem witch trials while telling why all of them have a big correlation with one another, why they're related, and also the whole entire twist of the story itself was just something really, really just. It still cradles your brain still with how that happened, wondering, okay, so you go from this to this in an instant, and thinking, okay, how is this transpiring? So this is one of those games that definitely needs a playthrough, because the replayability is there for this.
I guess I'll go on to my next game then on my list then, and that would be Spider-Man Miles Morales. This was the first game I started playing when I got my PS5. I think that Miles Morales... What?
Well, I didn't say anything.
I love the 2018 Spider-Man game. I think that and Batman Arkham City are the best licensed games of all time. Miles Morales isn't quite as good. I would describe this as Uncharted Lost Legacy for Spider-Man. However, this game is so much better than Lost Legacy. I loved how they used Miles Morales as a way to I loved how they basically made this as not really a coming of age story, but as a way of basically earning the city's respect. The mechanics are actually better. Things are more fluid. The web swinging as well. I like the more personal story this time around with Miles Morales and his friend. As a launch title for the PS5, I do think that it is a damn terrific game, although it's not as good as the 2018 game, but still, as a launch title and essentially just as an expansion to an amazing game, damn good game.
I actually don't have any more games to talk about.
All right, so then I guess I have two more. I'll try not to go through these. I'll try not to take as much time with these ones. So next up, Gary, you're gonna be pissed that this is in my top 3. Ghost of Tsushima. Yep, Ghost of Tsushima. Now, this is what I'll say about this game. Ghost of Tsushima is an excellent game. It's probably the most beautiful open world game that I've ever seen. And I think that in terms of the gameplay, it's addicting, it's a lot of fun, and this is a game where when you're riding around, you want to stop every 5 minutes, maybe even less than that, just to take a beautiful image because of how gorgeous the game looks. Now, I'll say this again. Ghost of Tsushima is by far the most beautiful looking game I've ever seen. However...
Shut up! You're leaving it right there! You're not finishing that sentence! You're leaving it right there! Next game!
The story wasn't great.
No! You're not finishing! Next game!
The second act of the game is terrific. The storyline of how it picks up is great. Oh my god. I do think the build-up was a bit slow for my taste, But in the second half of the game, the second act, it picks up considerably, and the ending I absolutely loved. That's all I'm gonna say about it. And also the music, I should say, is great as well. Great music.
I do like the mode for it. It's quite okay.
Now, my final game up for my top 3 is Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2. I have been a massive Tony Hawk fan ever since the first game came out. I love this series so much. I've always been a massive fan of these games. This is the only sports game, technically it's extreme sports. This is the only sports game I'll ever play. And I love the original 2 games so much. With that being said, this game actually, if you ask me, is better than those games. Of how it's able to improve the feeling of those original 2 games, of how it keeps the modern classic arcadey style feel of the original 2 games while modernizing the feel of it. The games look incredible and how it keeps the soundtrack while adding more songs to the soundtrack. I think that Vicarious Visions I believe they did actually the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy remake, by the way. They did a phenomenal job of remastering, or actually they rebuilt the games from the ground up, and they gave it not only a terrific paint job, and it's a game that even though I have played it so many times, I keep going back to it every couple of days, actually, just to do a couple of 2-minute quick sessions, and afterwards I finish with that. But yeah, Tony Hawk Pro Skater, as a big fan of the entire franchise minus a couple of them. What are you doing?
Nothing.
I do think that is a remake of 2 games, by the way, not just 1, but 2 games, and only $40. That is a huge bang for your buck right there. So now, Gary, we are going into our top 3 games of 2020. So this is how I want to do this. So either one of us can do our 3 and 2. We don't have to do a discussion. We can do our 3 and 2, and then afterwards we both do our number 1 games. So Gary, since I was the one going first, you go with your 3 and 2.
Do I have to?
I'd like you to.
All right, I guess I'll talk first for a little bit, just
Please.
to make the folks somewhat satisfied with whatever. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here's my 3 and 2. Number 3, it is the game. It is The Last of Us Part 2.
I'm just kidding. I say it's not your number 1. Oh, fucking no, I'm just kidding. Come on.
No,
I'm just kidding. Come on, because at least somebody
Hey,
actually played it.
I at least took your game and put it in my top 3. You fucking butthole.
I'm sorry, I played more games.
Shut the fuck up. By the way, folks, I actually played the game. I literally look. I'll even show you. Let me just give me a moment. I'll literally show you.
Okay.
I went out of the way to literally go out, put an order in, buy The Last of Us 2, the physical copy itself from Naughty Dog. See, there's Naughty Dog.
Mm-hmm.
There's Ellie, all pissed off, and there's the title itself. I went out of the way, bought the game, installed it onto my system over there.
Mm-hmm.
I sat down and I played this game throughout the whole thing. I didn't go on YouTube to watch it like a movie. I actually sat down and played it. The story itself is a lot more hard hitting.
Yes.
It makes you feel a different way. It makes you pissed off, but at the same time, it makes you understand why a person has to do what they need to do. You understand from Ellie's side. You understand from Abby's side why these two ended up having a correlation with one another, and why these two ended up having, a hatred for each other.
Yes.
But here's the thing, though. They both have their stories and willing and need to survive.
Correct.
Because, hey, this is the fucking torture that they're living in. Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous, and you have to do whatever you can in order to survive, but no matter what techniques you can use to make it through the wilderness. The game itself, in terms of its atmosphere, it's much more open. You get a lot more exploration. The game feels a lot more like a Resident Evil in terms of its gameplay style. I really like the voice acting. I like how the story really plays off. I thought everybody did a phenomenal job playing their roles. It's like I said, I thought the whole game was absolutely fantastic, except that final ending. Other than that, though, really great game. All right, next up, number 2, Doom Eternal.
That's actually my number 2 as well, but I'll wait to talk about that.
Doom Eternal is an old. This game is way different from Doom 2016. This game follows that old school format to where this game is hard as hell, but it starts off that way on purpose because here's the thing, though. The game wants you to learn it.
Hmm.
This game wants you to learn it. It wants you to learn how it functions. It wants you to learn how it works. And the more you learn the game, the better chances that you get of getting rewards that will pay off at the very ending.
Hmm.
This game rewards you handsomely, it rewards you well, and it does treat you really right, like an old school shooter. This game is fucking phenomenal. It does Doom justice. It is great. I love the atmosphere. The soundtrack is kick ass as can be. Sucks it got the controversy that it did. Doom Eternal is a great game. I enjoy it relentlessly, even though I prefer doing, mouse and keyboard, but I can't run it on my computer because it's a piece of
Right.
shit. Doom Eternal is a great fucking phenomenal. Old
I,
school at its finest.
all right. So going to my 3 and 2, which my number three, I'm gonna talk about Hades. Hades. This game, I knew nothing about it until I want to say maybe till September or October, and I kept hearing people saying this is a great game, it's a great game, it's a great game. And then finally, when the Game Awards nominations came out, I just thought, okay, maybe it's time to finally get it. And the best way I can describe this game is that it's basically a much more aggressive version of Diablo 2. And I fucking love Diablo 2. It's one of my favorite games out there. And when I heard it was that combining with Greek mythology, you have me right there. This was such a fun and addicting game where you're just essentially trying to escape the underworld as the son of Hades. And how the Greek gods, Zeus, Hermaphrodite, Hermes, also Ares helps you out, Poseidon, many of the gods are trying to help you out as you're trying to get out of the underworld. And this game, even though it may seem monotonous at first, for because you're trying to get out of the underworld in one go. The thing is this, it kind of has that from software aspect to it where it can be difficult because of how much it is being thrown at you at once. But it's a game that you do learn as you go through it. And I think that the art style of this game is absolutely beautiful. I love the soundtrack. And the gameplay is just, I haven't been able to put this game down because it's just that addicting. I think it excels in pretty much every aspect. Number two, Gary, mine's also Doom Eternal, like I mentioned earlier. Doom Eternal, I cannot tell you all how much I love this game. Before lockdown happened, I was playing this game. During lockdown, I was playing this game. I beat this game twice during lockdown on Ultra Violence and Nightmare mode. And I still was playing it even after I did that.
And he
All
was
that stuff.
playing it while he was taking a shit. He was paying more attention to that than his girlfriend that he doesn't have. His fucking blow-up doll. He was playing that instead of fucking his blow-up doll.
Any more you want to add to that?
Fuck you.
This game raises the bar for first-person shooters so damn high that it's gonna take a lot for any of them to top what Doom Eternal does. Like you mentioned before, it is a game that it is probably gonna kick your ass at first, but it is a game that it does so for a reason because it wants to learn certain mechanics of how you're supposed to take down certain enemies, of how you're supposed to exploit their weak points. Mick Gordon's soundtrack, which I think is one of the greatest soundtracks that's ever been produced for a video game. The campaign is one of the best first-person shooter campaigns I have ever experienced. The Icon of Sin final boss being just, I'd say, just the chef's kiss on what was already an amazing game. The multiplayer, I don't quite love like I love the single-player campaign, but the multiplayer battle mode is still a ton of fun. So yeah, Doom Eternal, I think this game should have gotten something or a couple things in the Game Awards. It got robbed, at least in one particular category. However, I think it is one of the best first-person shooters ever made, and I could keep going on and on, but Gary, with that being, so let's get into our number one games of the year. So Gary, I know what your number one is, so I know.
Everybody knows.
So Gary, you go ahead and talk about your number one.
I recently got a poster of this game.
Mm.
I can't turn my camera on because the cord for it's wrong, so I took a picture of it instead.
Mm.
I mean,
Oh, that's why you were doing that. Okay.
here's what I can say, folks. Everybody knows who knows me well enough understands my number one game of 2020 is Ghost of Tsushima.
It's a great game. It's an excellent game.
Folks, this game, if there's one thing about me is that when there's going to be a Japanese type themed, whether it's a movie or a game, I'm going to be interested because I love learning about Japanese culture. I love learning about the civilization. I love learning about those times, whether it was bad or good, leading up to the history. Because sometimes when there's something that transpired in the culture, it leads to a story that you just want to hear. Whether it's about the gods, whether it's about samurais, ninjas, sword fightings, survival. Also looking after your own, trying to trust allies and learning who you love and who you don't, honor, dignity, pride, war, love, hate. A lot of this, everything I just mentioned is in this game. The determination, the story itself, the serious elements that transpire in this game is just absolutely mind blowing. The story itself. Now, here's what I can say about the story. The story, it doesn't start off slow. Yes, it does, but I understand where it's going. It takes its baby steps at a time. It is a developmental process leading up to the grand finale for each section that you are going through Tsushima to accomplish. You are given so many things to do throughout this game, other than meeting your side characters, learning their story, who they are, and helping them figure out their past and their what's going on with them. It goes into such fluent detail with these characters, why they are important to you and why you need them. You learn
Right.
a lot about the Sakai clan, why Jin Sakai, who he is, and most of all, you are going through all of Tsushima, not just the story, but there are so many things to do throughout this game.
There is.
Got you got to me my favorite side quest, the Legends quest.
Yeah,
I
the Legends quests were by
absolutely
far. Those are by. That was actually my favorite aspect of the game was the
The
Legends part.
Legends quests were absolutely phenomenal, and I think those are the best thing to do. When you see the little guy with the guitar, you fucking talk to him because you do those Legends quests, you get great benefits that help you throughout this whole entire game.
Mm-hmm.
The crafting is so nice; it's very well organized. The game is very easy to learn. I love all the abilities that you were given, from throwing smoke bombs to, I believe, grenades to those wind chimes for distractions, the stealth that you're able to do from walking on top of the roofs, jumping down, killing people, hiding into the grass. Also, the fighting itself when you're doing the standoffs and you're
Mm-hmm.
legitimately going one on one, going ape shit, killing people. The fucking ghost mechanic is just absolutely badass. Plus, majority of the time, you find yourself roaming around on your horse and just looking at the beautiful cinematic view of what this game is able to give, because this game is just absolutely beautiful with its art design. And yes, you will be taking so many pictures with this game.
Mm-hmm.
And
Tons.
folks, the God's honest truth, I love this game so much that this is the first ever game that I was actually able to platinum. I
Oh yeah.
love the dedication for Kurosawa himself in his movies and how they adapted that into this game was just an amazing tribute and great recognition. I'm gonna shut the fuck up now because I can go on and on talking about this game because I love it
Yeah.
that much.
My number one game, Gary. You know what this one is. Everyone knows what this is, and I'll show the case again. It's The Last of Us Part Two. It's gotten so much hate. It's polarizing as can be, to say the least. Last of Us Part 2 to me is one of the greatest games I've ever played. I have not played a game with a story that has had so much intensity, so much atmosphere. There's some great humorous moments, some great moments, some moments of heartbreak, abso-freaking-lutely, yes. And it has probably the most beautifully tragic ending I have experienced in a video game. I think that in terms of a story-driven game, the story for this game is one of the best narratives I have ever experienced. I think that in terms of the voice acting, Ashley Johnson, Troy Baker, who, God, his scenes with Ashley Johnson as Ellie are some of the best I've ever seen in a video game. I think Laura Bailey played one of the most had one of the greatest character arcs as Abby. The graphics of this game, it looks absolutely beautiful. It's as if you're playing the most interactive movie you're possibly playing. It's very cinematic. Like you mentioned, the gameplay is everything has been tripled and doubled down, but in the smallest aspects, like tweaking the stealth aspects, tweaking the gunplay mechanics, and the soundtrack by Gustavo Santaolalla and Matt Quayle. I think their soundtrack is just as good, if not better, than the original game, to which that might give me some hate right there. I've been this game twice. I want to play the third time, although I know this person will object to that. I could gush about this game for hours. I'm not going to do that, though, because I know you guys value your time. But Last of Us Part 2 to me is really a gem. It's a feat. It's a magnificent game. And I don't think it's quite a perfect game, but do I think it's a masterpiece? Yes. Naughty Dog, what they're able to accomplish is nothing short of magnificent. And for me, that's why Last of Us Part 2 is my #1 game of the year. That is going to do it for Mr. Garrison and I's best games of 2020, our little discussion of games that we played, whether we thought they're disappointing or we really liked them, and then going into our top 3 games of the year. Thank you all so much for watching this one, guys. I really appreciate it. Mr. Garrison, thank you for being a part of this. I'm looking forward to continuing our little partnership into the new year. Thank you so much for watching Gary and I's best games of the year. If so, if you guys would like to see more just like this one, hit that like button, also subscribe, and don't forget to hit the notification bell for whenever the latest video from us goes live. If you guys want to see any of our previous 2 reviews, please click up to the left or right sides of the screen. And of course, into our next video. We'll see you guys next time. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for my worst movies of this year.